Hi, I'm Eugene Driscoll, and welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. We're recording this episode on October 19th, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Ethan Fry.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Ethan. We're both reporters from valleyindy.org, a nonprofit online newspaper in Ansonia, Connecticut. Today, our guest is Nicole Klarides-Ditria. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Ditria. I'm just happy I didn't say Ditria Klarides. I did on a Facebook post.
Yes. People typically forget one of the two names.
Right, one of the two. That's why I apologize.
Thank you. It was perfect.
But you're a Republican from Seymour, and you're seeking to unseat Democratic Representative Theresa Conroy in the State General Assembly's 105th District, which covers Seymour, Beacon Falls, and a portion of West Derby, where I live.
Correct.
Welcome to the Valley Indy, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
So I'm going to turn it over to you right now to fire off the first question here with Nicole. So go right ahead.
You could probably have predicted that we'd ask about this, but let's just talk briefly about Donald Trump, the man the Republican Party nominated for president. Do you support him, particularly in light of the remarks he was caught on a hot mic making about women and the subsequent remarks by several women in the past week or so accusing him of behavior similar to what he was caught describing on tape? What are your feelings on the Trump candidacy?
Well, the Trump candidacy, I know everybody feels this national election is, in our lifetimes, probably one of the most contested, difficult, hard, unbelievable, embarrassing, just all around bad candidates on both sides. I truly feel that a couple months ago I was just saying I'm going for the GOP nominee, and that was Donald Trump. And I support Donald Trump. I'm not happy with his comments. I am offended by what he said about women. I basically get offended by him every week. But with that said, Hillary Clinton, I feel, will put our national security at risk. I feel there are more issues with Hillary that I dislike than Donald Trump's, lack of a word, potty mouth, or they say locker room talk, which, again, I don't agree with any of it. But at the end of the day, I feel that he will not be afraid to poke the bear, so to speak. I don't think people will bully him. I feel that he will bring a wealth of knowledge and a great support staff with him to run our country if he is our commander-in-chief. And I just think, again, it's a very difficult decision for people to make this election season.
So you're going to vote for Donald Trump?
I will vote for Donald Trump.
Top of the ticket. Do you? Is it something that you hear talked about? Seymour's a Republican town. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And I know I see a lot of Trump signs in Seymour.
Yes.
What discussions are happening on the local level? Is it something is it a distraction as you? Because there's actually, I guess what I want to ask is, there's obviously an anger in the country. There is, we hear it all the time. There's this anger bubbling up against politicians, basically. So, what does he represent? Do you think? Why do people support him? And does he have support in Seymour?
Well, first of all, yes, he has support in Seymour, and I think when I talk to people, residents, whether it's door knocking or an event, it usually does come back around to, we talk about local issues, state issues, and then we somehow get onto the federal, the national discussion, and they want change. And that's what it is. Most people feel, and again, not everybody, that Hillary will be an extension of Obama. And some people do think it's worse. Every door that I've knocked on, I think I found one person. Now I've been knocking doors since the middle of May that actually said they will vote for her. But again, everybody is very upset with our pool of candidates. But again, we went through the process, and that's who the Democrats gave us, and this is who the Republicans gave us to deal with.
And do you think that is it distracting from what you're trying to do here in Connecticut and here in the Valley specifically?
No, I don't find it distracting. I mean, I'll discuss it and any issues that they have. But again, I try and bring it back to, unfortunately, I can't do anything about the national election, but I want to fix our state. And that's, why I'm here today. And that's why I'm discussing with people our issues.
All right, thanks. And just by way of introduction to people who aren't familiar with you, just tell us a little bit about your background. Are you a lifelong Seymour resident? job, family, that sort of thing?
Okay. Well, I am a lifelong resident of Seymour. I've grown up here. I went through the Seymour school systems. My parents and my family own Klarides supermarkets in Seymour and in Derby for over 50 years. I worked in the family business as well as my sister and our cousins. We went through the family business, a small business, learned the value, appreciate hard work that people do every day to be in business. And after that, I went to college, got a degree at Quinnipiac University. Then I came back and I worked in my family business for 6 years until we then ended up selling them. And then I needed to decide, what am I going to do? I'm not working with my family anymore. What's my next step? I decided to go back with my love of athletics, being an athlete, my sister and I, both of us through high school and college. And I got my degree in athletic training. So I rehab athletes, I get them ready for competition, and it's the enjoyment of working with the student athlete in the high school and or college level. So I've been working at Laurelton Hall High School now for 15 years. And I also cover football for Seymour High School. So I get to use my love of sports and rehab and athletes and nutrition and do that every day. Then after that, I decided, well, I need to give back to the community somehow. So my sister and my parents always taught us, give back to the community.
And your sister's Themis.
Yes,
Klarides,
Themis Klarides, who's
you might have heard of her.
maybe in passing. She's the minority leader up in Hartford. So she's always, encouraged me, give back to the community, and my parents, in whichever way you felt was good for you. So I decided about 6 years ago, I got involved with the town of Seymour with the Board of Finance. So I was an alternate on the Board of Finance for a year, got my feet wet with that, and then decided, well, now it's time I want to do more with my community, with the town of Seymour. So I ran for the Board of Selectmen. And that first term was in 2011. And now I've been fortunate enough, I'm in the end of the first year of my third term. And the Board of Selectmen, each election season, has voted me unanimously as the deputy first selectman. So using that as my schooling for public service, it's been a great learning tool. I've learned how to balance budgets under Kurt Miller. He's taught me, and the entire board and the town, it's just taught me how to run a town government, obviously on a small level, but I see what happens when budgets aren't balanced. I see what happens when infrastructures aren't run properly, when you don't plan for the future. So using all that is what gave me the background now to decide I think I can do more on the state level.
I think just growing up and backing up
Sorry.
for a second. No. It's fine. I had a couple of questions, but growing up in Seymour, your parents running a business. I think we have an old Evening Sentinel press
with
plate.
like an ad.
An ad for your parents'
with the
store.
supermarket.
Yeah, it had to be from like 1963.
Like prime rib at like 39 cents a pound, or say like these absurd prices.
It's actually my dad and his two brothers
who did it
that own the business.
Well, when you were there dinner table discussions of politics growing up? Was it like a newspaper family? Were there like policy discussions or anything like that? Because there's two daughters.
Yes.
Both are in politics.
Yes.
Like, what influence did your parents have over you, or if any?
Well, my parents
for the political scene,
right? They always told us, and we didn't. On occasion, we would talk politics, but not really growing up. But the discussions in our family, my dad ran. In the supermarket in Seymour, we had an appliance center. That's how much it dates me. Most people don't remember that. My dad ran that, and he didn't get home from work until 8 o'clock at night. So we waited every night to have dinner as a family with my dad, and we would obviously discuss his day or what's going on in the supermarket or the fights he'd be having with his brothers from one end of the store to the other, and discussing. But it always came back to something in the supermarket, in the community. And they always taught us, listen, this town has given so much to our family. It's my dad and his brothers and us with these supermarkets that have given us so much. And even my father's father owned a corner market in Seymour with his brother Sam. They had an ice cream shop and a little, grain and feed supermarket. So he always said he gave to the community. He helped with the high school. We supported the sports teams even when we were little. I remember getting my dad's pickup truck and going to a football game on a Saturday morning. just always supporting and giving back to our community. There was always something that we could do, whether it was donating food to, anything, the cheerleaders or the football team or the baseball team or the softball team. It was just constant, give to your community. Just do what you can to help. And it was a good feeling knowing that we were doing something good for others.
And then just that you had also mentioned how being on the Board of Selectmen in Seymour, where you're the Deputy First Selectman, how that was like a schooling in government. Can you talk to me about in what ways has the state government or the current leadership or your opponent hurt Seymour? Do you see ways, if that's a fair question, do you see ways it's challenging because of the state policies? How does it affect the town of Seymour?
Well, directly and indirectly, if you have bad policies on the state level, as you know, it trickles down to each municipality, whether it's monies that we're getting from the state that are less. We do our budget. Kurt does the budget every spring, and we go out to referendum for the town to vote on it. We have our budget set. This is the amount of money that we're going to use for the following year. And then the state will come down months later saying, okay, well, now we did our budget, and now you're getting less. So now the burden is put on the towns to come up with X amount when they cut us. So if you have bad policy on the state level, meaning unfriendly business practices, high taxes, high mandates or regulations, it affects our bottom line. And it trickles right down to the towns, the municipalities, and their businesses too, because then the businesses are affected.
And then in Seymour specifically, has that led? Do you think that has led to mill rate increases, or how does it affect the someone who lives in Seymour?
Well, Selectman Kurt Miller has done a great job with financially getting our town in order. We came in 5 years ago, and our town wasn't doing well financially, so we had to basically go in and clean house, and that's what we need to do up in Hartford. We didn't have a road program. Our roads were almost in disrepair, so many of them. We had to start a proactive road program. So now we have money in our budget every year to address roads. They hadn't touched roads in 15 years in Seymour. So we went through, our fund balance was very low because the previous administrations were paying a lot of our bills out of our fund balance, and your fund balance is equivalent to your savings account at home. And if you keep grabbing from that savings account, eventually there's nothing left. And then your credit is very bad. The credit companies won't, if you want to redo your mortgage, you
Which
need
you're
a good
seeing happen on the state level.
and we're seeing that on the state level with our fund balance, the rainy day fund. They keep going into that rainy day fund, and now we're down to, I believe it's 1.3% on the state level. So we need to fix those problems. And locally in Seymour, we went ahead and fixed those issues. So now our fund balance is very strong. We've increased our bond rating. We're second from the highest in Seymour. It's the highest it's ever been. And what that equates to is we get to borrow money at a cheaper rate. So now we went out for bonding, have money to do our roads. We're actually on the ballot again this November. We're going to have a question on the ballot. We want to bond more money to do more roads because now we're playing catch up. But those are the things that we've done, again, cleaning our fiscal house and making Seymour a better place to live and financially more stable. So now people will see, businesses can see, oh Seymour, they're doing okay. We've stabilized our mill rate. We had to increase it when we got in, but we had a 5-year plan to stabilize the mill rate. We're right there now stabilizing. We have debt coming off our books every year. So that means we can add, if we want to fix up a building or we want to add more roads, we have, our debt ratio will be fine to do that. And now people can see that.
And then, no, that's fine. Then you basically want to take that type of policy and do
Yes.
it on the state level. Why are you running? Talk about making the transition from Seymour Board of Selectmen to trying to become a state lawmaker.
Well, not many people know that my sister Themis has basically, since she went into office, has been trying to get me to run on the state level, and I never wanted to. I was never involved in politics. I did this kicking and screaming coming into Seymour, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and I ended up actually enjoying it. And I said, she's like, you have to run. We need more like-minded people up in Hartford. We're in the minority. You can make a difference. Look at the things you've done in Seymour. So I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm doing good work in Seymour. I love my jobs and my family and my husband and son, and I'm busy enough. So this past budget session, when they're going through the regular budget and then mitigations, I talked to my sister and I'm like, what's going on today? And she's like, this going on, that going on. So then I said to her, I go, well, what did my opponent? Did she vote for the budget? She goes, yeah, of course she did. I go, that's it. I need to run. I can't sit back any longer and watch this happen to the state that I grew up in and I love. It's just things need to change. And I tell people when I'm talking to people at the doors, or like I said, if I'm out at an event, they say, I go, we're circling the drain in the state of Connecticut.
And what are some examples of that? Talk about some of the things that you're not happy with.
I'm not happy with the budget that we continue. I mentioned a couple of minutes ago about we continue we've raiding the rainy day fund to pay our bills. We need to, again, like we have in Seymour, fix your financial house. Whatever's wrong, fix it. 2011, we had the highest tax increase in the state of Connecticut. 2015, we had the second highest tax increase in the state's history. Now, yes, sometimes you do need to raise taxes. We did in Seymour, but you saw what we fixed with it. In the state of Connecticut, it hasn't fixed the problem. And that's why we're there. As my sister loves to say, you can't keep sticking gum in a hole. And that's what they're doing. Raising taxes, cutting jobs isn't fixing our problem. We need to, I give an example where just the programs that we offer in the state of Connecticut, whatever they are, if we could run them efficiently, we'd save millions of dollars. All the issues we've had with DMV. We have programs. I'll give you a couple examples. The state of Connecticut has a marketing plan. It's called Still Revolutionary.
Oh, yeah.
Now, can you see Bill and Marie that live in Arkansas planning their one vacation every summer? And Mary goes, hey, Bob, where are we going to go this summer vacation? He goes, well, I just saw an advertisement for the state of Connecticut. And, they're still revolutionary. Let's go there. I don't even know what that means, right? So that program is $6.5 million. How about if we get rid of that $6.5 million and use it towards our mental health and addiction services that were cut in this last budget? That my opponent voted for this budget, and I believe it was $13.8 million that the state cut for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. We have this opioid epidemic in our state and the country. How can you be a strong advocate of fixing these problems, but then you're cutting it in our budget? So that's number one. Number two, the Yukon Health Center, Fire and Police. We could eliminate them. That's, $7.6 million. And we can offer a smaller stipend to the city of Farmington to pick up those services. We could reduce legislative salaries. We can combine some committees. And I think that's around $3 million. Again, it's just, there are things that they're not vital services. Another thing, the Citizens Election Program, right? When I run or the senators run, $11.7 million. You can get rid of that completely. Or how about this? Just cut it in half. $5 million. What could we do with $5 million? There's places that the Republicans every year said, let's get rid of it. Let's cut it in half. And the Democrats are saying, no, we don't want to.
And why do you think that is? Why? Because everyone wants lower taxes and great economic development. What's happening that there is this opposition to it? I
don't know. I'm not up there yet, but guessing maybe because it's coming from the Republicans. Now, these are things that I don't think I'm saying anything that's left or right winged. I think it's basic common sense, and that's what the Republicans, what we're promoting. Don't spend more than you make, right? I say that to every person that I talk to. Why should you and I, in our houses and our business, we have a fixed amount of money this month. You make the X amount of money. Okay, you can't spend any more than that. So don't spend more than you make. Let's do that on the state level. It's that predictability.
No, I'm sorry. He's going to do the next question. Just ignore our hand gesture. Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
But it's that predictability that we need and sustainability. If we can get businesses back into Connecticut, fix our taxes, fix the mandates, the the burden that we have on the taxpayers, the businesses will come, and then the jobs will come, and the people will come with them.
A poll by Quinnipiac University just in June found the governor's approval rating to be at 24%, which is an all-time low to him. And then an overwhelming 72% among those polled either said that they were somewhat or very dissatisfied with the way things are going in the state. Yet Democrats will probably be returned to majorities in the state House and Senate. So, I mean, like, if people hate it here so much, why aren't these Republican ideas you're talking about, common sense ideas, resonating enough to give the GOP a majority? I mean, like, I'm sure you're hoping they'll get a majority in November.
Right.
Why are the people of the state, the voters of the state, so slow on the uptake there?
Well, what's happened now, every 2 years, you have the election. The Republicans we take a few more seats, and we're up to, it's 87-64. We have 64 seats now. In the House, we only need 12 more seats to take control, and in the Senate, only 4. So the people of Connecticut are being heard. They're saying every election we are taking more Republican seats away from the Democrats. And that's another thing I hear from people every single day. They say, we're sick of Governor Malloy. I said, well, we know, and we're stuck with him for 2 more years, unfortunately, but the House and Senate is democratically controlled, and we can make that change in November. Those are the things we can change.
And this is sort of tangential to that, but I think a lot of people, Republicans we've spoken to in this election cycle, would say or would concede that the Republican nominee to run against Malloy 3 years ago, Foley, that wasn't the strongest candidate, let's say.
Yes.
Are you supporting someone for 2018 yet, or do you think there's potential people that would be good candidates against Malloy?
Yes, I think we have a great pool of candidates coming up in the next 2 years. I mean, we've seen articles, in the paper, just, the short list or people that have expressed interest. And I think that they're people that are very strong. I wish some of those people were around 2 years ago and could have possibly helped us start to get out of this mess we're in. But yes, in 2 years, I do think we will have a good pool of Republican candidates to pull from for the election.
Do you have support anyone yet or anything, or is it too far?
I think it's too far. I mean, here's the thing: we need to see what happens in this November election, because that will be a big determining factor whether certain people will or will not decide to put their hat in the ring for governor.
Okay, and the General Assembly recently held a special session where lawmakers ratified a $220 million incentive to keep Sikorsky headquartered in Connecticut. It was overwhelming bipartisan support for that bill. Would you have voted yes or no for that, and why would you? Why?
Well, I think they did the right thing. We needed as a state we need to keep Sikorsky in Connecticut, because besides the people that we employ, the subcontractors, the people in the state of Connecticut support that business. The problem with that is, what is going to keep any other business now from turning around and saying, we want ours? And if I were that business, I'd be doing that. Well, if you're giving it to them, give it to us. If we have better policies and better taxes, our business-friendly policies, if we can get those in force, then we won't have to do this. Then people will want to come to this state. And like I said, then we will create these jobs and get these people to expand in our state.
I guess, like in the annual report, the company that owns Sikorsky, they made a profit of, I think, upwards of $5 billion last year. They paid $9 billion to buy Sikorsky, and presumably not because Sikorsky was hemorrhaging cash at the time. So, I mean, you sort of touched on this, saying this is just going to be a line of companies with their hand out. So, what should be the determinative factors for a government to decide, should we offer company X a big incentive to either move or stay here? What should be the factors in determining that?
Well, I think it comes back to, do we have the money to do that? Because we're getting to the point in our government where we don't have money to give out anymore, because we're not making it. That we've also in the recovery for the recession, we lost a lot of the higher top paying jobs. And they say, yes, we've recovered jobs, but they're all in the lower paying jobs. So if we don't, I know I keep saying this, but if we don't fix our policies and the way we run the state, then I don't know how we would give money to other companies.
And sort of touching on that, following up, you wrote a guest column that you submitted to us and presumably other papers.
No other papers.
No, just
Never.
just gave us the exclusive. After the Walmart in Derby closed, you noted that as that was happening, the General Assembly was in Hartford debating a $15 an hour minimum wage, and wrote that, I'll just read from it, quote, "It is precisely this sort of punitive, wrong-headed public policy that leads small companies and large corporations to conclude that Connecticut is a tough place to do business." Do you think there should be a minimum wage? If so, what should it be? Or, should the government just stay out of that whole arena, I guess?
I guess you can, I don't have one solid answer for that, but I think as a business owner, the minimum wage is an issue because it affects your bottom line. So if you're a small business and you're mandated again to have a higher minimum wage, that will affect the amount of people that you employ, that you can hire, the improvements you can do to your business, and your ability to stay in business in whatever town or city you're in. So I think there's pros and cons to it, but as a business owner in the state, I see the negative side to increasing minimum wage.
I should just note, if you see us looking down on our computer, I'm checking sound levels and things like that. It's not that we're not paying attention. I should have said that.
I know you're fully engaged in every word I'm saying.
Right, we definitely are. But I mean, I live in the district. You could be my representative.
I could. I hope I'm fortunate enough to be your representative.
So let me ask you. Where I live, I'm on Hawthorne Avenue in Derby. I live in the 2nd Ward. My taxes go up. My home value continues to go down. And then, Derby, like Seymour, like Ansonia, like so much in the Valley, we have these big properties that we talk about all the time. And, we've only been around since 2009, but it's like they do study after study. And it seems like the only people that benefit from these properties are like consultants and attorneys. What would you do if elected to help some of those, like the former mills in Derby or the properties in Seymour that seem to sit stagnant? What can you do as a legislator to help us?
Well, I think on the state level, again, making the state business friendly, not overtaxing our residents, not overregulating. But I use the example of my family's shopping plaza on Route 67 in Seymour. This is the first time in, I believe it's 20 years that we're full. We haven't been full in 20 years. And our only national tenant is Ocean State Job Lot. Only one. Everybody else is a mom and pop local store. And I think depending on what town you're in, and unfortunately, sometimes it's unfortunately the way you're set up geographically dictates the type of businesses that can come in. Seymour, and I know you've discussed this with First Selectman Miller, we have Tri-Town Plaza. Well, that center part of the plaza has been open for many years now, and not for lack of trying. We've talked to many people to get them involved, to get businesses in there. Now by the end of the year, we talked to the owner, and they're taking down that center section, so it'll become more marketable. We have great the towns and cities have great properties, but businesses come in, and again, I use this for my own business background, and they say, yes, we'll come into your area or your town, and we're only going to make this much profit. We want to make a higher amount of profit, so we're not going to come. So they'll go to the next town because it's set up differently. It's set up closer to a highway. The median income is different. So I think it really all depends. We're doing a great job in Seymour. We're bringing businesses into town. Is it as fast as anybody wants? No, but we're doing a great job. And I can't, I want to see our town move forward, and I want to see the same thing happen on the state level.
What are some of the ways in Seymour that you've been able to lure in businesses? I mean, either because your family owns that shopping center. Like, how you doing that? Like, what are they looking for exactly to move to Seymour? Is it like tax breaks or?
Well, I mean, it depends on the business. Again, if it's a smaller business or a mom and pop type store, they're looking for that hometown feel. Where Seymour's a smaller town, we have our downtown antique district, you're going to get a certain type of business in there. Unfortunately, we can't get a national tenant in there just because of the way it's situated. But we can on Route 67 in Seymour, we can Tri-Town Plaza. I mean, other than we go out and we talk to these places and we just try and make our town more attractive to them to come.
And then I just wanted to, this is a totally random question that, I mean, I'm the son of a police officer and the brother of a police officer. Obviously, I was raised, my mother was a police officer's wife. I'm wondering, and if I'm putting a label on you, I apologize in advance, but being a police officer's wife, how does that affect your politics in any way? Or how would that affect you if you were elected as a state lawmaker? I'm
proud to be. My husband's a detective in Seymour, and I'm proud of my husband and all the men and women that put their lives on the line every day to protect us. The firemen, the police, EMS, everybody. So I think just to protect them, support them. Everybody's lives matter. We go through this. We've been going through this issue with Blue Lives Matter. Yes, absolutely, they matter. Firemen matter. Everybody's life matters. So it's important just to give the support to people, to everybody that help and protect us and save us every day of our lives, that make our lives a safer place.
And then in terms of switching gears again, I mean, if you look at this particular seat in the House, I mean, one year it was Republican, then it was Democrat, then it was Republican. It's really... of all the races that we cover, this is one we never know.
It's the closest to like a battleground in the Valley.
It really,
state race.
Why is that? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean,
why is it a battleground?
Or why? I mean, they went. It was Len Green,
right.
Republican, and then it went to Theresa Conroy, and then it went back. I mean, I don't even have the history.
It went Conroy, then Green,
then back to
Conroy won it again.
Sorry.
And then it looked like there was going to be another rematch, but then Len withdrew because of job
Leonard
responsibilities.
Duran.
Yeah. So,
So my question is, I guess, why can't Seymour voters make up their mind, or what's been happening there?
I can't give you an exact answer, but I just know Len Green Jr. comes from a family. His dad, Len Green Sr., was state rep at one point, Beacon Falls, and that's a family that again is very politically involved and gives back to the community. Theresa Conroy, same thing. Her family, her dad was a state police officer. Another family that was heavily involved in their community, and same thing with me.
I guess a better question now that would be like, how do you deal with that? Like, well, how do you get more people? Is it just door to door? Because this district has been so changed so many times over the last few years.
Right. Well, I think it goes hand in hand with people being so unhappy with Governor Malloy and his policies. And unfortunately, my opponent continues to vote party lines. She's voting for these budgets. She voted for the budget in 2015 was the second highest tax increase in our history. There was a quote somewhere, I think in 2012, that she said, "I don't want any more taxes." Well, she voted for the second highest tax increase in our history, and people know that. People know that by her voting for this budget this last time, she cut $13.8 million to mental health services and the opioid addiction. It's just the cuts. She voted for the budget. She cut VOTEC schools. We've been having that issue with VOTEC, the vocational schools.
Yeah, that really hit a nerve, at least on our Facebook page. We have like 13,000 people who follow us on Facebook, and we just tweeted or put on something on Facebook from CT Mirror about the VOTEC school, and wow, like it was really, they stirred up a hornet's nest there. Yeah, and you had said, let's talk about manufacturing for a second there. Historically in the Naugatuck Valley, we were mill towns, factory towns. You could work there and make a living.
Yes.
Now...
And you could leave a job and get another one almost immediately.
Yeah, and now it's, you're working for a retailer and you got to work 5 jobs now. The jobs that have replaced factory work or not, they don't pay well.
No.
So what can you do to change that?
Well, what I've heard from people is our VOTEC schools, we have waiting lists to get into our VOTEC schools in the state. They've never been more popular. So why would you want to close them? Why would you want to cut from these schools, especially in our tough times when we need to create jobs? We're giving these kids an education, and then they're going into our community. And the people that I've talked to said they can't hire these kids fast enough. So there are jobs for them to get as soon as they get out of high school. And again, going back to the budget last year, my opponent voted for that budget, which cut the VOTEC schools' money. Now, fast forward to whatever it was 2 weeks ago, when the governor comes out and said, we may need to close 2 VOTEC schools, and or, the sports programs are cut significantly from what we offer for those kids. So now the Democrats are coming back and saying, no, we don't agree with that. We don't agree with the governor. We're voting against the governor, but you voted for the budget. So that voted to cut them back then, and now you're up in arms because they want to close them. You should have fought for them then.
How about in terms of this campaign? What role does your sister play in it? Obviously, you're close and you talk quite often, I imagine.
Yes.
But there seems to be like the Valley, the Naugatuck Valley has this sort of power structure now within the state Republican Party. Your sister, J.R. Romano, is from Derby originally. So I would think this is a race that your sister and J.R. Romano would be personally interested in. What type of resources are they giving you, and how are they providing you or not providing you insight and mentorship as you try to unseat an incumbent, which is never easy.
Right. Well, all those things, they're my sounding boards. If I have a question on an issue or what to do or how to approach someone, I will go to my sister. I'll go to J.R. Romano. I'll go to Kurt Miller. I cannot tell you how much he has helped me with this whole process, just really getting me ready for doing what I'm doing right now. So they, again, it's anything. Any question I have, I go right to them. Well, how do you think I should? Give me some examples of why this person would yell at me because I want to do this, or yell at me because they're like, well, we talk it through. So eventually I'm figuring out the answer, but they're just prompting me to get there. So they are. I mean, they've been in it for a long time. They see the struggles, and they're just, available to help me with any questions or guidance.
And then in terms of getting out the vote, I'm curious if people are dissatisfied with both top-of-the-ticket candidates, is there a thought that Republicans might stay home? I just watched something on one of the channels last night in Nevada, and they were saying that Republicans were they were so angry at Donald Trump they weren't planning to vote. Okay. Which essentially is a vote for the other side.
Right.
Does that come up in discussions?
No, honestly, I have not heard one person tell me that they're not going to vote. I've heard more people now saying, I didn't vote last year, or at some point it didn't vote, and they're like, we're voting this year, and we're voting, and they're saying it a lot on the national level as well as locally. They're like, we're all getting out to vote. We don't care how we get there. We're getting there to vote this year.
And then in terms of polling or anything like that, like you tell me about the secret sauce. That's what we want to know. Everyone just says, oh, it's knocking on doors. We don't believe that. Come on. You've got J.R. Romano and your sister. What polling do you see? Do you have any sense? You're laughing and shaking your head at me.
Because I don't, listen, if there is polling, I'm not privy to it. So, and even if there is, I don't want to know, because I'm attacking it. I'm going for it. This is important. I think the people of the state deserve more. The people of Seymour, Beacon Falls, and Derby deserve more. So if there is polling, I don't know anything about it, but and so it's not keeping me from doing anything.
I just know of living in Derby's second ward. I think there's more Democrats. There's probably independents. I'm an independent, and we probably are the highest majority. But I know in the second ward, I think it's Democratic. I think it leans Democratic because I know all our reps on the Board of Aldermen are all Democratic. Do you kind of put that part of Derby to the side, or do you focus your energy elsewhere? How does that work?
Well, I'm focusing on my section of Derby because they're the ones that are voting for me.
Right. And that's their second ward, but I'm saying like they tend to vote Democratic. Do you think
do
you have to do more work there than in your own neighborhood?
No, I still have my list of people that I'm going to see and I talk to, and again, even though it is strongly Democratic, I'm still getting the same responses from the Democrats that I am from the Republicans, just that they're not happy with the direction our state is going in.
there's this sense of unease, and it all comes back to
and they want the change.
the economy. I guess would be the number one. So, Ethan, did you have any other follow-ups there? I realize I'm hogging the microphone.
that's right.
He is hogging
I
a little, I
apologize.
think.
Just like I guess you've talked about like the state has to be more business friendly. I guess just like how like are there examples of specific regulations or laws that you think that should be done away with? And I guess can a state be too business friendly? Like if every business wants to just stampede into the state, does that show? I mean, people talk about how like unions control the Democrats, and I think that's a fair point to some extent in Connecticut, especially like public employee unions. But can the pendulum swing so much the other way? Like Texas, for example, like it seems that like it's just the Wild West there. But there's more like the industrial accidents are more frequent there and things like that. So like, how do you strike that balance between having a business friendly environment and looking out for workers, health and safety, for example, things like that?
Well, I mean, I think anything's possible. I think we're far from being at the other end of the spectrum too business friendly. I think we need to get our fiscal house in order. And I think I can't give you examples of specific regulations, but as far as we need to prioritize our spending and bring, our fiscal stability back to Hartford. And that's really why I'm running. And if we can do that, like I said before, the businesses will come back to Connecticut and then create the jobs.
And I sort of touched on this with talking about the Sikorsky deal earlier, but Governor Malloy is fond of talking about, I think he calls it the new economic reality.
Yes.
Is that just basically, a big corporation says we're going to leave if you don't pay us X, tens of millions of dollars, give it to us or we're out? Like, is that the new economic reality? And how do you change that if it is?
No, unfortunately, in his mind, I think he feels it's the new economic reality, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, from the recession, the jobs that we lost, Connecticut is only recovered 81% of the jobs. And we have the worst job recovery rate among the 6 New England states. So if we listen to his words and live that, then our state will continue to go in this downward spiral.
What happens now as the election day is just about here?
Yes, it is.
And I don't know. Well, we're going to try to. You gave a little. All right. Why is that? Is that because you're?
Well, I'm excited.
How do you get the word out? Like, I guess that's one of my questions, because I know just as a member of the media, the evil. And we have nothing to do with rigging the election. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
It's so hard. I would assume it's harder than ever to get out there, to get your name out there. Is it, or? Well,
I mean, we have, obviously you see, we have lawn signs, or we have digital ads, we have mailers. So there are ways that people are hearing about me, as well as, I know you don't believe it, but knocking doors is what wins election.
I know.
But people want to see your face. They want to talk to you, because if you don't believe what I'm saying, you're not going to vote for me. If you don't like what I'm saying, you're not going to vote for me. I'm not afraid to make those tough decisions. And if I'm fortunate enough to get elected in Hartford, the people of Beacon Falls, Seymour, and Derby want me to be their voice. So if that means voting against my party, then I'll do it. I can't. That's what I was raised. I was raised to be honest. It won't be easy, but I'm going to do my best.
Considering your sister is a member of the party and a high-ranking official within the party, that could...
The high-ranking official.
Yeah, that could create some...
Oh, we're going to have some fun.
So what happens now that you're zeroing in on November 8th?
Yes.
Are there like where do you hit up? Where do you try to get those last minute votes?
Just continue door knocking, talking to people, talking with you guys. So that just
and there's no debate, or I know every year we get asked to host a debate, but there's nothing. Is there any kind of forum happening that you're appearing at?
Well, we were invited by the Seymour High School. It's their new political club. I forgot what the name of it is.
Really?
To do like an in-school debate type something.
And is that going to happen?
I don't know. I responded to the email and said I'd love to do it. So it was Jacob Litke, who's a senior at Seymour High School. He sent me the email. So asked me if I would be interested in doing it as their first their first event for their club. I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry. So we'll see what happens. I'm waiting to hear back.
Well, that's fascinating.
Hopefully
that's
they'll
exciting.
record it. We could share it. If
Right.
If
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
This is a sort of wonky question, but if elected, will you serve out your term on the Board of Selectmen? Or
Yes, I
okay.
will. I will serve it out until next November.
Apparently, you've had that question before.
Yes.
Is there anything, Nicole, that we're not asking you as we sort of draw to the end here? Are there any issues that you wanted to bring up that we're not touching upon?
I think you guys did a pretty good job.
That's good to hear. Yeah, because we don't cover state politics. This is a totally new area for
I
us.
think you need to start doing it now. This is new for the two of you.
We would need some money, but again, though, like we just think it's a public service. We when it comes down to it, our belief here, our mission is that journalism is a public service, and there's this technology is so wonderful now. You can come in, talk for 30 minutes to an hour, unfiltered, to the voters of the Valley. And then that's why we're here, to spread news to the masses. So with that, my name is Eugene Driscoll. Ethan, you wanted to add something at the very end there?
No, go by all means. That's all right.
I'm Eugene Driscoll, and for Ethan Fry, this was a thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
thank you.
wonderful.
All right, we'll see you next time.